and welcome to the session that's right after the lunch. Hope you had some coffee. I would like to welcome on stage our keynote speaker coming from ITU, Mr. Karim Abdelghani. He is a program coordinator in ITU office for the Arab region in Cairo. Karim, tafadhal.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to offer an apology for not being here in the morning in the opening. Unfortunately, I didn't know that I was going to be handed an award or something, but I'm very privileged to be with you today. This is my second time participating in the EAH conference, and I want to thank Dr. Turman for the opportunity to present to you the outcomes of the Measuring Information Society report for 2017. Just to give you a quick background on the ITU, for those who don't know it, the ITU is the International Telecommunications Union, which is the UN organization responsible for ICTs globally. Yearly, the ITU issues the Measuring Information Society report, which mainly captures the new trends and ICT statistics in this field. It's considered a big resource for researchers as well, among other stakeholders, on the latest ICT statistics. This year the report was actually published just around 2 weeks ago in Tunisia in the World Telecommunications Information Society symposium, international symposium. So my presentation will mainly focus on 4 areas: the current status of ICTs, the ICT Development Index, emerging ICT trends, and country profiles. I will also, throughout the presentation, I'll try to focus on the Arab region, given that I'm in the ITU Arab region office, and this is the conference relevant to the Arab region as well. So without further ado, the latest report, the Measuring Information Society report, mainly highlighted the great progress that the world has seen in broadband. We're happy to report that currently there is over 50% of mobile broadband subscriptions in the world today, which is a great achievement. But on the other hand, you can look at the other half of the coin and figure out that just a little less than 50% of people don't have mobile broadband subscriptions. So meaning that around 50% of the population of the world are still unconnected in terms of broadband, and this is something that all stakeholders globally should focus on trying to improve. Also, LTE or higher capabilities are available to most mobile users today. As you can see, there has been an exponential growth in terms of, sorry, the graph is a little bit hazy, but I can try to explain it. This is the mobile network coverage throughout the years, starting from 2007 to 2016. The dark blue section is the LTE or higher users. The lighter blue is 3G and internet users. So mainly, as you can see, LTE or higher is gaining a lot of momentum, and you can expect that it will grow in growth exponentially over the coming years. Particularly as it empowers or as it becomes the backbone for new technologies, as will be presented in the coming slides. Also, more than half of the households worldwide now have internet access. What is evident in this diagram or graph is that digital divide still persists among countries, between developing nations, between developed countries. As you can see, just in case you cannot see it, the yellow line is the LDCs, these developing countries. The blue line is the developed countries. In between, the orange line is the average world, and then developing countries, the gray line. So the digital divide is still persistent, and some people argue that, according to statistics, obviously, that it is increasing. But it's not only increasing between countries. It's also increasing between age groups and between gender, men and women. Diagrams are self-explanatory, but mainly these are factors that should be taken into account by policymakers and all stakeholders that some people, when they talk about digital divide, often we only think about the countries, but it's important to note that it also exists and is increasing between different age groups and between different genders. So, in the Measuring Information Society report, one of the main items that are presented in the report annually is the ICT Development Index. This ICT Development Index mainly aggregates a list of around 11 indicators that revolve around three axes: ICT access, ICT use, and ICT skills. They're weighted in different weights. I won't go through the details, but mainly together they combine. They form the Information ICT Development Index, which we use to rank countries and to measure progress of ICTs in different countries around the world. So this year, for the first time, Iceland came on top of the list. It is, according to us, the most ICT developed country, and according to the IDI. Last year it was Korea, so Korea is in second place this year, followed by Switzerland, Denmark, the UK, Hong Kong, China, Netherlands, Norway, Luxembourg, and Japan. These are the top 10. And what's evident for us is that most of the countries that are developed in the IDI index are mainly European countries and Asia-Pacific countries, which correlates also to the fact that they are the most economically prosperous and most literate, have highest literacy rates and digital literacy rates as well. And mainly the citizens are well skilled in that regard. Hence, all these factors together create an enabling environment for ICTs to growth, and vice versa. ICTs does contribute positively to their GDPs in a great way. The most dynamic countries that changed their IDI index, unfortunately, from these countries, none of them are Arab. So I won't go through all of them. I will later on show you the most dynamic countries that have changed the ranking in the Arab countries. In past recent years, we had countries such as Bahrain who had great progress. Sometimes even Lebanon had, I think the year before the last one, was also among these top countries that dynamically changed and improved their IDI index. This is just a geographical representation of the IDI index globally. You can see that the red countries are the most developed, and going down to the spectrum, the yellow is the least developed. And you can see geographically, you can pinpoint that countries that have lesser income are generally lesser developed in the ICT sector. So if we go down to regional analysis, you can find from the distribution of IDI values, this is the distribution. So you can see that Africa, in terms of IDI values, Africa, this is just an inverse relationship between, illustration of the geographical distribution that you saw. So that you can find that developed countries are generally have 7 or more than 6 countries, the value of the IDI index. And developing countries, you can find them less on the left side of the diagram. In the Arab region, the most area that, the countries that changed their IDI index or improved their IDI index saw great improvements in areas such as fixed broadband subscriptions and internet. They saw improvements in internet users and households with internet incomes. Unlike in the world, for example, the areas that seen most improvement is areas relevant to fixed broadband subscriptions and active mobile broadband subscriptions. So I'm mainly talking the improvement, the change from this part to this part. In the Arab region, it is not apparent. So mainly what this says is that in the Arab region, bigger improvements in mobile technologies have been witnessed in the past year or so. The most dynamic countries that improved between last year and this year are number 1, Algeria. Then if we consider the ranking only, we're talking about Algeria, then Djibouti, Oman, Lebanon, Egypt, and Mauritania. But if we're talking about the IDI value, we see that countries such as Oman, Kuwait, Lebanon, and Morocco have also had great improvements. I won't go through the details of the specifics on the areas that they've improved specifically for Algeria and Oman, but you can get a sense that middle-income countries have improved in the past year or so. Also, this is the ranking for the Arab countries in order. You can see that Bahrain is the most developed IDI country in terms of the IDI index. But also you can also notice that the Gulf countries in general are more developed than the rest of the Arab region. Middle-income countries are typically in the middle of the diagram. What you can also notice is that the Arab states average is higher than the developing states average, which is a big achievement. We're still below the global average, and there's still a big gap between the Arab region and the developed economies, as highlighted. There's a digital divide in that. Within the Arab region, you can also deduce from this graph that there is a big digital divide between Gulf countries and least developing countries, and also between the middle-income countries. So the Measuring Information Society report also dives deep into analyzing emerging trends. Particularly when we're talking about emerging trends, we're talking about new technologies such as artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, and other factors. Internet of Things as well. These technologies will have a great impact on all sectors. I mean, ranging from networking, pure ICT-related sectors, all the way to automotive industries, health industries, and so on and so forth. So it is estimated that the estimated global revenues in US dollars, obviously, will increase dramatically, as seen in the graph for Internet of Things, as seen in the table, for Internet of Things, big data, public cloud, and artificial intelligence. You can see that the numbers are quite large. And this slide mainly demonstrates mainly the innovations that can be seen in each of these technologies. I won't dive into all of these. Obviously, you researchers have been working a lot with cloud computing and other technologies, but what I can say is that in the coming years as well, you'll be working a lot with areas such as artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. Those will be more and more used in the research field, in my view. Through these new technologies, you can imagine that in the future, countries will be able to make bigger strides towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals adopted by the UN. Because of the great developments in the different sectors, it will make it easier for governments to try to tackle issues such as poverty and hunger and health issues and education issues and stuff like that, making use of these new technologies for development. The only issue that needs to be flagged is that even though countries will have a bigger chance to achieve those SDGs, it is the countries that make use and the countries that have access and the skills required to utilize these ICTs will be able to achieve this. Meaning that countries that don't do this or are not able to do this will fall behind, and hence the digital divide will increase in that regard. So it's important for all stakeholders of the international community to focus on empowering countries that might not have access to such technologies, might not have the skills to implement those technologies, and might not have the resources to implement those technologies. Finally, the Measuring Information Society report has a big section on country profiles where you can see details of ICT statistics relevant to each country. You can also compare different countries together in that report. It's quite a handy report. You can access the report online on the IT website through this URL for free. Also, there's a very handy IDI data visualization tool that researchers might find it interesting to make use of. So this is in short what I wanted to highlight in this year's Measuring Information Society report. I'll be happy to take any questions if you have any. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Karim.